Judgmentalist is here in the house with another exciting episode of your favorite podcast. Yep, that's right, your favorite podcast. I said it. You've got to believe it because I'm a hypnotist. Big Sexy Digital Nomad, here we go. We've got another exciting episode for you today. At the time we're recording this is 1 year from the day that we dropped our first episode. So it's kind of like a birthday, but we know it's not. What's going on, Big Sexy?
Yeah, nothing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whenever this is hitting your ear holes, I hope that it is good. Little sound behind the scenes. Yeah, move that back just a tiny little bit. You're coming in just a tad hot on it.
A little hot. All right, let me turn it down.
But yeah, man, things are moving forward. Things are going good. Plans are coming to fruition. As you said, as we of this recording, today is today the 5th? Today is our actual birthday. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to Big Sexy Digital Nomad on the day that we dropped the release date, which is technically our birthday because we actually started a few months before, about a month before that. But you know what we mean. Happy birthday to us.
And honestly, by the time that people are hearing this, it'll be really 14 or so months since we actually started doing this because this is a few weeks ahead. So you're not hearing it on the 5th. You're hearing it 2, maybe even 3 weeks later. And we ramped up and started this thing a good month before we actually dropped an episode. So
So it's all, but I'm the kind of person who likes to celebrate everything that I can celebrate. So I'm recording on the day that we started, that we dropped. That feels good. I like that. Yeah, man. I'm excited about going back to Spain. I was actually talking to my friend back there. Shout out to Jaina, who we need to get back on the podcast really, really soon. About how, we're 2 weeks away. Like 2 weeks from today, we will be back in Malaga. That's a point of excitement for me. It's a point of stress for the wife. Because she handles a lot of the logistics of it. Like we have our flight booked. We pretty much know where we're staying. The next bits and pieces are getting the dog stuff in order. I got to make sure I have all of my medication taken care of. And I'm going to definitely do a check to make sure I have all the medication, because if I'm going to get medication, I'm going to get it here because it's cheaper here than in Spain. Right? Spain is cheaper than the U.S., but here is cheaper than Spain. So if I can get as much medication as I can here, I'll do that, and then be good to go for when we're in Spain. The next big thing that we got coming up, though, is our trip to England. Right.
That's right.
So we are this time next week, as of this recording, we will be in England, probably at the British Museum or at one of the, Kensington Park or Hyde Park, checking out, the garden and the scenery and making our time around England and seeing the sights and spending the day and taking a little holiday, little vacation. I'm really looking forward to that.
And I'll be in Vegas when you're doing all that.
Yeah. So you got a trip going to Vegas. I'll be in England. It's funny that there's a sign on the door here at our Airbnb that the water is going to be out, or at least there'll be no hot water on the day that we're leaving. I was like, thank God we're leaving that day.
Yeah, that's right.
I told the wife, okay, we're going to shower the night before. This will be very interesting because this will be the first time I've ever taken a trip and I'm not packing a bag. Like the only thing we're taking is my backpack. We're going to pack clothes, right? Because we're doing an overnighter, but I can fit everything in my backpack.
Okay, so you guys will, the Airbnb that you're currently in runs across that trip, and this is the last one that you're going to be in before going back to Malaga, right?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah.
So we're here until the 18th. and we leave here um, on that Wednesday, and we're back in Malaga on that Wednesday, the 18th, October 18th. So really excited about that. But yeah, we'll still. So that's the cool thing. We were able to leave all our shit here. You know, it's like having a regular apartment. You just leave your stuff there and you go for a trip, which is what I had envisioned long before we started this journey, being able to do. Right. That's one thing that I learned, that as easy as I thought it would be to get to other countries when I was finally in Europe, I was wrong. Completely wrong. Listeners, this is the educational portion of Big Sex Digital Nomad. If you think you're going to go to Spain and then you're going to easily bounce around to Portugal or the UK or France or Amsterdam or the Netherlands, unless you got the bankroll and time and money to do that, that is a costly adventure, which we found out. But we will be able to take short jaunts once we're there long term, right? It's hard to figure out where you're going to go when you are paying for Airbnbs.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's funny, like, especially looking at that element of being able to, cost aside, being able to go somewhere but leave your stuff there, or most of it, most of what's left of it, at least.
right,
Um, in late 2019, and I think actually early 2020, before the world went to shit. I don't remember the exact, you know, precise time frame of all these trips, but I actually had linked up with a real estate agent in Las Vegas and was looking at properties and was thinking about buying a second house out there because
right,
of the frequency that I go out there. And the point counterpoint to it was very much a, yeah, but you don't pay for rooms when you come out here, so why would you buy a house? Well, there's a lot of tax benefits to it without getting into the
right,
weeds on it. But it's some of it's about stuff. Some of it's about not carting stuff back and forth across the country
right,
and needing to remember everything and all that other shit, because if inevitably, and I say this on the precipice of hopping on a plane and going to Vegas in less than a week, I'm going to forget a thing. Maybe it's
right.
deodorant, maybe it's a toothbrush, maybe whatever it is. There's going to be something that highly likely doesn't make the list. So be it. I'll have to buy it when I get there or
You
do
can go to
without it,
CVS and yeah, pick one up.
depending on how essential it is. But, you know, having that, and, of course, we wouldn't have just let it sit vacant. It would have been an Airbnb, all this other shit,
Right,
whatever. And
right.
I know the rules on that stuff are wonky, but in Las Vegas, but we would have
Ooh,
dealt with it.
you know what you do is you buy a house in Vegas, and then we convince Brogan to move to Vegas, and then Brogan lives in your house, pays your rent, and but you have a spare room, so whenever you come, you can just pop in your room, and
I
then
would be lying to you if that exact scenario has not crossed my mind. And certainly, I mean, what that is going to take, very simply, the 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 linchpin to making that happen is Brogan either A, getting a job in the area. Of course, we'd be among the first to know. At
right,
least I'd like to think that we would be. Um, even if not directly, certainly through social media, there'd be a great deal of excitement, and it would not be a secret for
right,
very long. Or, and it's, again, this is another conversation that we have had. I want to say not a little bit more than in passing, of Brogan saying, okay, now it's time to get serious about determining that path to get me into the States permanently.
yeah. I need to
Uh,
talk to them because well, I can't help them with the process of getting to the states permanently, but I can definitely talk to them about the impetus to moving to Vegas permanently. Because back when I was living in California, and I was talking about moving to Vegas, and this was back in 2007, 2008, when I was like, okay, let me get my ducks in a row. I began that process of what does it take, where I'm going to work, what I'm going to do, um, and then making that decision. And then, the caveat was pulling the trigger.
Right.
right? The caveat was, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is when I'm going to do it. I'm choosing a particular date. I have a place. I don't have a job yet, but I'm pretty sure, I'm skilled enough in enough things that I can find work pretty easy. I know how to navigate that minefield, right? I had enough saved up to make it happen. So, uh, yeah, the caveat was pulling the trigger, and it was one of the happiest decisions I've ever made. Second to now, I am in Europe.
I will say that the element of, quote, pulling the trigger is not going to be the barrier for Brogan.
Mm-mm.
Once the opportunity is there, that ass is going to be on a plane.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Brogan
It'd be really
will,
cool if they came out to a school fest and never left.
yeah. Well, all it takes is the right person with that all of the original Pokemon cards to win that not that whole
It
tournament, and it could happen.
can happen. That's right. That's right, man. Yeah. So we are doing the thing, and the thing is being done. Like I keep tripping on the fact that one that we've been doing that this has been going on for longer than a year. The Big Sexy Digital Nomad has been going on for longer than a year, and we're still plugging away at it, still having a good time. And I was re-listening to our year in review last episode,
Oh yeah.
and man, we have really come a long way. You know, um, especially if you listen back to like the old episodes, right? If you
Well,
look
we had no
back,
idea what we were doing or where we wanted to go. We still, to some extent, have a lot of loose ends.
right, right,
Um,
but man, have we talked to a bunch of amazing people and seen some amazing things and done some amazing things and changing careers. And I was chatting with a friend of mine online, and they're like, just catching up. Like, what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm doing podcasting. It's amazing because I fucking love it. Like, I love this space. I love doing this. I love recording and figuring out. Even when I get on, like today, I had no idea what the fuck we're going to talk about. None. I kind of
which is
knew.
actually par for the course. You know that.
Right, right, right. We're good. We're good with that, right? Um, which is different because again, I'm hosting two podcasts. Or I'm co-hosting the other one, Rainbow Dreamcatcher. We always know exactly what we're going to talk about before we get on air. Right? We pick a topic, we discuss a topic, we get into it. I don't know what I'm going to say, but wife pulls up statistics and things of that nature, whatever we're talking about. But I have an idea of what that topic is going to be, which is vastly different than coming on the Big Sexy Digital Nomad, where I'm going to be the topic and you're going to be the topic, right? And whatever's happening in our lives will be the topic. Unless we have a special guest on, then they're the topic. So
Big sexy digital nomad, where having an agenda is not our agenda.
you need to put that on the shirt.
Yeah.
You need to get that definitely on the shirt. Um, Speaking of which, man, I need to get some merch. I absolutely need to get a shirt out to me. I'm realizing apparently shipping stuff to Spain is going to be tough, but I may have to have you look into it
Okay.
and order some stuff and see if we can get things sent to our. Once we have our address locked, then I'll know how to send stuff, where to send stuff to me.
Yeah, because once you're there on this run through, you're going to be in the same place for
A long
an
time, at least
extended
three,
period
at
of time.
least 3 months, for a minimum of 3 months.
Right. That makes
Maybe
life a little easier
a lot
because
easier. Yeah.
there have been a couple of things with the Fuller's tour going on that out in the world I have seen and been like, man, it'd be really great to ship that to Matt, but how?
Right. Right.
In hindsight, rolling back on it and now knowing what I know, which I'm only learning on the fly, which I'm pretty sure he's only learning on the fly. There have been a couple of opportunities on off dates for him to fly home for a
Right.
day.
Yeah, I saw
And
that. I saw that he took a trip back home and got to see his kids and stuff like that. And I bet that was wonderful for them.
oh, of course. Yeah. I mean,
It is
it,
really cool to see friends succeed.
yes.
Right. Shout out to I know that the folks over there at
Hey, buddy, nice podcast.
always talk about how they love and support Matt Donnelly and their household, and we're the same. Matt's a friend. And it's cool to see a friend shift positions, going from improviser to podcaster to magician to touring magician, on big city tours on an actual, bus and tour. Uh, that's pretty amazing. Like, that's phenomenal. I'm loving watching the behind the scenes stuff. It does make me wish I was. It kind of makes me wish I was back in the States a little bit, just a little bit, to be able to catch one of the tours someplace, to support in that nature. But I'm able to support from afar, and of course, I repost everything, and I tell people wherever they're going, like, "Hey, man, if you're in the city, go see the show. It's going to be amazing."
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, by the time that anybody catches this, other than our friends on Patreon, my understanding is that tour will be over. I think October 15th is, well, this run of the tour. I'm getting the indication that the success is there, that they'll probably do another run of it, within the next 6 or 8 months. Obviously, that stuff takes a deal of planning and logistics, and I have not put all of their dates and locations on a map and drawn lines between them to be like, are they running in a nice swoop that makes sense,
Right.
or are they bouncing all over the place? But there has to be, I mean, I guess there's got to be some sort of logistical consistency or continuity to it,
I would
because
imagine because they're on a bus.
bus and truck. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you're not going to bus. I would say that probably, and I'm sure that there are actually hard and fast rules to this, and I'm just spitballing and pulling shit out of the air. But there's probably some sort of a desire from location 1 to location 2, if there's shows on back-to-back days, that transit's less than 8 hours driving, or 10
Right.
hours driving, or 6, there's some number that's probably the rule.
Right.
And, whether or not it's a strict rule, or whether or not that's just hey, this is ideal, this is not. There's definitely, some sort of preconceived structure to it.
Right. And I hear them talking about their experience. One is making ICS a whole lot of fun to listen to, to catch the background of, and during the tour stuff and everything. Yeah, I mean, it feels really good to have a friend doing that. You get to feel proud about it, Honestly, I can't wait till you're doing that kind of stuff. Till you're, maybe not a full bus and truck tour, but when your gigs are getting bigger and bigger, and
Yeah. I mean, who knows what so the interesting thing about that is I couldn't do with hypnosis, because of the nature, because, a third of a 45, 20, 10 to 12 minutes, arguably even 15 minutes of my show is prep in the induction, getting
right,
people ready to come up on stage, getting people up on stage, getting people under. There's not going to be a scenario for me to do a bigger production, kind of like what they're doing with, with 4 magicians and bus and truck,
right,
than what I'm currently doing in the 2-act show. It's the direction that I go to specifically with hypnosis from here, at least from my current understanding, is either this 2-act show, a similar 2-act show, or just a longer hypnosis only show. So
right,
there's really no, because there would never be, like, even if I did all of the production, sound, audio, smoke, lights, stuff like that Kevin's doing in his show in Vegas, my crew is still 2 people,
right,
and then a bus driver. So there wouldn't need to be a bus. Like, it's just not, it just packs so light. It's one of the things that I love about it, is that hypnosis packs incredibly light.
Right. But
You know,
it'd be. I mean, of course, I'm a dreamer, and I imagine, it's a bus tour, and the fact that you have a tour bus with your face plastered on the side.
I mean, that'd be cool. Do we know if the Fuller's Live bus has them plastered on it?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. I would imagine we would have seen photos of it. I would
Yeah,
imagine Matt
for
would not
sure.
have been able to
You're
prevent
right.
himself from taking pictures next to a bus with his face on it.
You're right. You're right.
Right. But uh, ooh, do you have a catchphrase
Like what?
like lose your mind with judgmentalist or
I would say with the Between Two Minds show, our I guess tagline or whatever is "Enter the Impossible."
okay,
Uh, in
it's really
fact,
possible between two minds.
in going through, so we a little behind the scenes on putting something like this together because again, it's this show has become more, and we knew that the goal and the desire from the start was it for it to be more than just kind of a one-off thing.
Right.
Like this is a project now. This is much like the Fuller's tour is a project where they take it city to city, and ostensibly with obviously you tweak things, you refine things, you work out new things, you occasionally swap things in and out. Sometimes because you desire to, sometimes because the venue kind of forces you to because you just can't do this bit in that setting.
Right.
But it was designed to be an ongoing thing, but we weren't sure whether it would be good, whether it would take off. I mean, we certainly, we started with the begin with the end in mind mentality, which is a lot of, that is an adage that I take into a lot of projects that I get involved with. This is eventually going to be whatever. So you build it toward that so that you're not in a situation where you feel like you're changing a tire on a car while simultaneously driving that car down the highway.
Right.
Um, you know, and
That's really difficult to do, by the way.
it is. I couldn't imagine actually doing it, but it's
I'm sure it can be done.
the so we didn't start social media right away specifically and exclusively for Between Two Minds. Not that it would have mattered because there are social media platforms where the Between Two Minds handle is already gobbled up. Nobody's using it. We haven't found somebody using that handle. They had an account that was using that name that hasn't been active in years. So
Right.
we don't know the procedure for kicking them off of that post, and being able to recapture that name. So we've started putting things. I want to say that we're on Instagram. We now have a Facebook page, specifically for Between Two Minds, and most of that stuff is under the Enter the Impossible name.
Right.
Um, that's and and the challenge to it is really figuring out what do we need, what do we not need. Do we need to be on TikTok specifically? Is there any value there? Who knows?
I figure eventually going to get big enough where you guys are going to need a digital. You speak with a digital marketer,
Yeah,
and some young hip social mediaite will tell you where to go, what to do, and then you just got to create it and put it together and get it over. I figure we'll be in that same kind of boat. You know what I mean? What do you see with the end in mind for the podcast for this?
I mean, my desire with this, my goal is, and I don't see, because we've got an example that is similar in ICS where and we're doing it. We're doing what I envision it being, and at a pace that makes sense, because you're not going to go from starting a podcast to having thousands of listeners overnight. I don't think you'd want that, because if you did, like, one of the things that I love about ICS is the community. The
Right.
only thing that that I don't want to, I don't care about getting money out of this thing. To me, it's that community. That's what I desire to build. And you can't, like, if you were, I mean, just comparing two very similar things that have one big dissimilarity, that being Penn Sunday School and ICS, is that Penn Jillette, when starting a podcast, or insert celebrity here, there's no struggle for them to just have listeners overnight.
Right.
Really, bro? I tried to tee that drop up for you, man. Talking
Oh.
about celebrities struggling, and
Oh,
you
you
just
mean this one?
It is hard to look at a celebrity going. Imagine a celebrity just, on the toilet taking a massive dump.
it's also hard to imagine a celebrity going, "Ugh, I need people paying attention to this project that I'm doing," because part of that celebrity, I mean, you know, look at merchandise. I don't know if this is even on your radar, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But Taylor Swift is dating an NFL player. She goes to a game,
Right.
and his and the team's merchandise sales go through the roof.
Right.
So
Yes.
if Taylor Swift
And the tickets
were to,
too. Stupid.
were to start a podcast tomorrow, she'd have millions of listeners.
Right.
But part of that building the thing is what creates the community. We've got a series of people who are helping keep this thing afloat via Patreon, who get their names read almost every episode. Eventually that'll get spaced out over
Right.
time as it grows. But, as we have listeners that write to us, they're now being heard and personified to the other listeners.
Right.
The relationship that we have started message in a bottle, so to speak, by you being heard on ICS by me and
Right.
others at the same time. Me being heard on ICS by you and others at the same time. The relationship that we've developed with Brogan, with Wayne, with all of those people, if we wouldn't, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that the same type of community exists on PSS that exists on ICS, because that
No, and being an avid listener to both, and in the kind of community rooms of both, um, I think the community is different because for PSS, it's idol worship. You know what I mean? It's people who are listening because Penn is a celebrity, because they are famous, because Penn and Teller are famous. So people want to be as close to fame as possible, even though sometimes
It is hard to look at a celebrity going. Imagine a celebrity just, on the toilet taking a massive dump.
and still look at that person the same way, right? Whereas for ICS, though there are people who look at them as celebrities, it's the next level down, right? Because Matt works with Penn, right? And Paul has worked with Penn. So they are closer celebrities. So it's like being 1 degree of separation away from a celebrity, right? And then we are like,
the same token, that they created that celebrity within that community. Like, if we were to go and do a man on the street of, hey, do you know who this is? Do you know who this is? Do you know who this is?
Right.
Outside of places like, I mean, here's the example. If I were to go man on the street in Elkton, Maryland, hey,
Right.
do you know who Matt Donnelly is? I'm going to get some response. Why? Because he's sold out however many shows he's sold out in this town.
Right.
People have seen him. People have seen his name on social media, all of that other stuff. But the moment I drop down to, do you know who Paul Mattingly is? Crickets. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
there are, so that celebrity is not all encompassing. It's not all over the place.
Right. No,
Whereas
absolutely not.
Whereas
Yeah.
if the third question was, do you know who Penn Jillette is, or do you know who Taylor Swift is, or what have you, the answer is going to likely be very different.
Right. There
However,
are huge levels of celebrity.
yeah,
And what I said, while Matt, got a little, while ICS got a little bit of the celebrity bump because of Penn, because of Piff or whatever, it's the community isn't solely about people in that with that celebrity bump, right? They've also fostered and built a humongous community. One, because they're fucking talented,
of
hilarious,
course.
and amazing people, and that kind of stuff. The words. Listen to these these three nut jobs. Who talk about random shit that
Well, two nut jobs and special guest Jacob.
and special guest Jacob, right? And that's that they were able to build that, and
You know what? That right there, the thing that just naturally flowed out of my mouth in that conversation, that is the slow build. That is, the desire for the slow build comes from inside jokes like that, wanting them to exist, wanting them to translate through the community. Because if, let's say, this would never happen, but let's say for some weird, inane, alternate universe reason, David Copperfield were to contact me and be like, hey, I somehow randomly heard your podcast. I want to be part of it. And next week it became Big Sexy Digital Nomad with Judgmentalist and David Copperfield. Clearly the name of it would all probably change because of fucking Dave Copperfield.
maybe
But it would blow up overnight and
right.
it would fucking suck. It wouldn't be for us. Like it wouldn't be what I at least for me, and I
It might
think
suck for
you
you.
share much of this, want to build. The end game, and not even the end game, but the growth game is that picking it up one or two people at a time. Like in this conversation is actually bringing to light some brilliance to me for the obelisk scheme.
Tell
Don't
one person only.
don't tell everybody. Tell one person and one person only. Now, don't get me wrong. We're still running a pyramid scheme. So go tell 10 people.
Tell as many people as you
Because,
can.
from 2 years into promoting shows, I know that it takes telling 10 people to get one person to do fucking anything. So go ahead and tell 10 people because only one of them is going to do it. No offense to you, and certainly no offense to us, but picking them up one at a time. Like we
Yeah.
didn't, at times in which we doubled our audience, we didn't double that audience from this episode to the very next one. We
Right.
doubled that audience over a 2-3 month span.
Right.
Picking up big gains like that is great, but we're still not going from, logging into the dashboard where we upload all of the stuff and having it say, you have 30 listeners and then you have 3,000 listeners.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I would love a celebrity bump.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I would. I mean, doing something like having David Copperfield, maybe not as a host, but as a semi-frequent guest. That celebrity bump would be lovely. I would not be opposed.
Hey, look,
David, if you're listening, feel free to come on Big Sexy Digital Nomad and tell me all about your world travels.
I'm all about jettisoning the DC name and just throwing the HG in there. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'll take Harrison as a semi-regular
I
guest.
would love. Oh man, don't look. If we had Harrison as a regular,
I'd be
that
more
would.
excited about that than Copperfield.
I
I'm not
would.
gonna lie.
I would. Mainly because I don't know David. I don't know. I don't know
Same.
David at
I mean,
all.
I've met
But
him, but that's
see, I haven't even ever met him. I don't even know if we've been in the same space together. We've been in the same room because I've seen a show, but that don't count.
right.
He didn't know I was there. I knew he was there, but he didn't know I was there. Yeah, I would love having Harrison. That would be fun if he was a frequent guest. But again, you know, and other people who travel the world, who see sights, you know, who do things, come back in and reporting like that kind of stuff. You know, people who have a humongous audience. I would love that kind of bump. I would love to get that type of uh, uh, access and encouragement and support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I honestly view this getting big. Like I imagine, I would love to see us get big enough and known well enough that we are courted by travel companies, cruise ships, you know, travel agencies, so that they have access to our community.
Right.
Right? I love to build that kind of community where we're building people who are knowledgeable about travel, who understand what it means to go, you know, to become a digital nomad someplace, like what that process is. And if you listen to this podcast, then you get an understanding of it. You know, you have a clearer picture of it. Um, right now, the host who's named Big Sex Digital Nomad, he didn't even have a clear picture of the whole project to become a digital nomad, other than he is both digital and nomading.
Right.
Right. Um,
And at the time that we started this thing, merely knew that he was going to be.
just knew that I was going to be right. And so, and I'm hope that people are enjoying the journey with me, and I hope that we're giving, you know, information and uh, entertainment and education along that process. Right. The hard part is sometimes we do feel like you're speaking in a vacuum, and you know, when you're speaking in a vacuum, you're like, okay, well, I'll keep throwing things out there till something sticks. You know, and we keep asking for like, hey, hit us up, let us know what you want to learn about, what you want to hear about, what things have we said that you don't know, you know, what is intriguing, you know, about our travels, or traveling and going places that you want to learn. When you tune into Big Sexy Digital Nomad, are you listening for digital nomad education? Are you listening because you know Big Sexy? Are you listening because you know Judgmentalist? Are you listening because you find entertainment, because you travel a lot and you want a place to also share your stories? Like one of the big things is knowing our listeners, why they listen, right? I figure like people who listen to ICS are listening because for the hour and a half, they're going to be laughing a lot. They're going to hear about magic. They're going to hear about Vegas. They're going to hear about Philadelphia. You know, there's mainly humor, right? It's mainly a comedy podcast. You're going to hear Paul go nuts on a character, fed by, you know, Jacob and Matt. You get that. And then you get those inside jokes, and you get those running gags, and you get those, you know, that type of banter. And while we're not that, I love the idea of that, if that makes sense. I love the idea
Oh yeah.
of that community. I love the idea of having 800 to 1,000 people on your Patreon who are supporting you, where you're able to not have to worry about, you know, I don't have to worry about, you know, finding another job, find a gig where this is my gig. This is my job, right? This is paying the bills, as it were. You know, where the podcast is keeping the lights on. You know, where we're staying someplace long term because there is a check coming through. I would love for that to be the case. I'm hopeful for that is the case. I want the community and the profits,
Right,
right?
right.
I would love for that. Plus, you know, I have dreams of being out somewhere and seeing somebody wearing a Big Sexy Digital Nomad T-shirt, or, you know, a scarf or a hat or have a coffee mug, and I don't know that person.
I can't say that there's a way for me to be any happier for Matt Donnelly than from the reports I'm hearing back on this Fuller's tour of how many scoops show up, how many people he's seeing wearing ICS t-shirts or
Right.
Abracababble t-shirts. Like, that's got to be the best feeling, you know?
That has to be great. And you got to know, like, even when the boys report back that they, when they get reports back from, like, whenever they do an event somewhere, where the event staff or the admin, like, oh man, everybody was wonderful, everybody was great. Like, that kind of supportive community just boosts their name. And then other people are like, oh man, have you check this podcast out? These dudes came through, had an event here. A bunch of people, a bunch of people showed up. And everybody was chill, laughing, having a good time. Yeah, there were a few people saying cunt a lot, but that was worth it. They were having a good time and having a blast. Like, I love that aspect of the community. I love being a part of that community. Right? Anybody they say we have the best fans ever,
Oh,
I
yeah.
agree, because we are fans of them. And we are the best people ever. So I agree. They do have the best fans ever because I'm a fan and I'm the best. So I would love to have that kind of reach, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. And obviously I got into the ICS world somewhat late in the game, 2 years ago now, approximately. On a podcast that's run for over 9. And I have not filled out the back catalog, but obviously through things like Scoop Fest or whatever have gotten up to speed on many of the inside jokes.
Right.
But I'm even seeing it grow and change over those 2 years is great, because that evolution, you need to keep evolving with whatever you're doing, like if 2 years from now I'm doing the same show on tour that I'm doing today, I'm not going to feel right about it, like I'm not saying totally blow it up and start over, none of that, but because people love the show that I'm doing. But like tonight, for example, not tonight in listening terms, but tonight in recording terms, I'm doing this Fringe After Dark show in downtown Baltimore, and it's been requested that, hey, anything, no holds barred, whatever material you want to bring, no matter how risque it is, no matter how adult it is, no censorship, no problems, no nothing. I keep there's a lot, there's a wide range of stuff that I am aware of and knowledgeable on how to do within the hypnosis world that I wouldn't do in the normal show. But there are going to be a handful of people on stage tonight that for a brief period of time think that I don't have any clothes on the back half of my
Right.
body, and then don't have any clothes on the front half of my body, and then they're going to become naked. Then the audience is going to become naked, and nobody's going to actually take any clothes off, and it's going to be great.
I love
And
hypnosis.
I probably, and who knows, because once I do the routine live, even though I've seen Kevin Lapine do his version of this routine countless times, I could count them, but I'm not going to, 10 or so. It's still like I have a spectator's feeling of it. I don't have the performer and on the stage feeling of it the same way. So
Right.
after doing it tonight, maybe that changes, and maybe I'm like, okay, this isn't as over the top as I've thought it is. I could do this at more places, or I can tweak it and do a version of it at more places. Who knows? Because that's the future or the past if you're listening to this.
Right.
And we'll certainly report back.
Yeah. I will say that I am lovingly optimistic about where this is going, how big this can get, and everything that's going to go. I'm having a blast doing this. Um, I'm having a thrill. I love chatting with folks. I love going places and reporting back. Like this has forced me to really pay attention to where I'm at, because I got to have something to come back and report, for folks. So I'm really trying to get out and see the sights and see the world. Like I do my daily walkabout. I don't know if you guys are following my Instagram, but I drop a daily walkabout video almost every day because daily is a subjective word. It's a suggestion. But I try to drop a daily walkabout every day, and I'm forcing myself to see a community that I don't know, I've never been to. Make sure I go someplace new. I'm always happy to have someplace to go. It sucks that usually when I go out, I gotta spend money because I'm going to a store somewhere. But I still make it a point to step out and see whatever sites I can see in this new country that I'm in, because I'm not going to be here for a long time. I don't have time. I'm not. I'm trying not to get complacent and be like, no, I'm here. I'll have whenever to do it. We may not get to go see Dracula's castle. I'm hoping that we do, but the clock is running out, right? Like we were supposed to go next week, but we can't go next week because now we're going to England, right? So,
Right.
And all the money kind of went to going to England, right? To get out to do that stuff, but you got to give and take, right? You got to figure that out. So do I, feel kind of bummed a little bit, a little sad. I would love to get out there, but also that's part of the digital nomad life, right? You're working, you're not on vacation, you can't go see all the sites because you got shit you got to do. You can't just be out here willy nilly because you got to do the things that help earn you income so that you
Absolutely.
can, do things when you can do them, right? Uh, yeah, man. So I love where the future of the podcast is going, and I'm looking forward to it.
And
Now,
maybe this will give a little insight. We weren't planning this. This was not what we woke up saying, hey, this is what today's episode is going to be about. But I think it's cool to get it out there so that the listeners really, kind of have an idea of what our goals and motivations are. And that might help people slide that in and kind of understand what it is that we're looking to do,
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Well, we get into this part. We got some listener mail.
oh, yeah, that's right.
So I figure this is probably a good place to get into that. So give us a minute. Whenever I hear that, I can see a little 8-bit character running across the screen and then going up a ladder or whatever, like, or Mario sliding down a flagpole and the screen flashing and him running off. That's what that music brings to mind.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll read this letter that we got. Here we go. Hi, Big Sexy Digital Nomad. My name is Tara, and I'm hoping to be a guest on your podcast soon. I got a welcome to the podcast doc. Anybody who wants to be on the podcast, I send them a welcome doc that kind of has what we are, what we talk about, kind of what we do, and has some sample questions of things we may ask you. Not we won't ask all of them, but some of them have a thing. And this person responded back with answering some of those questions. They said, and I thought I would answer a couple of the questions in a letter. Here are the 2 questions for the podcast. What are some of the challenges you face while living a nomadic lifestyle, and how did you overcome them? That was one of the questions that I asked. One challenge I face while living this type of lifestyle is trying to find a romantic partner who will want to participate in this type of life with me. I've met so many cool people over the course of my travels, but this lifestyle of moving here, there, and everywhere definitely isn't for everyone. So I tend to not get really romantically involved with people. Sometimes I feel lonely, but I've learned to just be comfortable in that place and not see it as a bad thing. I feel you, girl. I understand that. Luckily, I'm doing this trip with the wife, right? So I don't really have to worry about the lonely, but I get the trying to be out here doing it on your own and trying to find somebody. A lot of the other people that I talk to, they want to get romantic and whatever, but people are moving all about. It's like trying to find love in Vegas.
Yeah.
People
Without
are
paying for it.
without paying for it, right? You can't buy me love, but you can rent it for a few hours. There is a transitory nature of the city, so romantic relationships are very hard. Matter of fact, the wife and I almost didn't get together because of that. Right, the wife hated Vegas. I love Vegas. She was planning on moving. I was planning on staying. So we almost didn't get together that, but then, here we are.
You guys did a little of both.
Then we did a little of both, a little bit of staying, a little bit of going, and now here we are in Romania. All right, second question: are there any emerging trends or destinations you believe will become hotspots for digital nomads? I asked that question to people who've been out in the world and seeing places. She said Estonia for sure. Estonia is a cool destination for digital nomads because of its ultra advanced digital infrastructure, progressive e governance, and high speed internet, which is vital for remote work. The country is renowned for its e residency program, allowing people to start and manage businesses online. And it recently introduced a digital nomad visa, further making location independent work easier. Besides the technology friendly environment, Estonia also offers a rich cultural heritage, gorgeous natural landscapes, a high quality of life, and is relatively affordable compared to other European countries like Finland or Denmark. The strong community of tech professionals and freelancers make it very easy to network and collaborate if you're in that industry. That was my editor note. And its location in the Baltics allows for convenient travel within Europe, which is great. Looking forward to chatting with you guys. Best, Tara.
Nice. That's interesting. And I think kind of good timing for what we discussed in this episode. And, you know, my wife doesn't want to travel the way that I want to travel and do shows, and we've kind of joked about it and talked about it. The easiest way to get me to go somewhere is to book me there. And then I'm happy to get on a plane or whatever and go and be there. She doesn't go with me on these trips. I mean, she goes to some of the shows, but like, I'm going to Vegas, like I discussed, next week. She's not coming. We thought that she might at first, and then whatever. I'm working on a run of shows down in the southern states, like Georgia, Tennessee, that kind of area.
Right.
She's unlikely to join me on those. Like anything that I'm hopping on a plane to do a show on, she's probably not going to be there. So that there's a difficulty there, but it also brings full circle. Kind of one of the cool things about building a community over time is that if you're doing shows and there's people that show up that have some sort of connection to you, like what Matt's getting to experience, that's certainly got to take some of the edge off, I would say.
Right. And I completely understand. Yeah, I've been blessed to have the missus with me, and I understand. I couldn't do this without her. I could not do this without her. Two, I wouldn't want to do this without her.
Right.
But I get what you're saying that, like, luckily your trips tend to be, you do short spurts, so you're not spending a long extended period of time away from the wife, right, and having to deal with that. That's like.
And don't get me wrong, like there may become a point, and again, I don't know what it's not that some of it's a lack of desire, but I think that if it got to the point where we were getting booked regularly, the tours made sense logistically, and the money was real, I would at least start to be able to convince her to come along with me.
Right.
Also as things progress through the hypnosis show, having somebody that knows what they're doing to be on stage to help keep everybody safe is also an eventuality to that line of work, having an assistant or whatever you want to call them. And Bernardo, my show partner, runs my sound, so he can't really do that and be my assistant. Right. So, having her eventually become part of that, I'm would be great.
Yeah. Any interest in your kids following down that path?
Possibly.
Because every now and then, I forget that you got kids.
Yeah.
I forget you're a dad.
I would say it's a possibility.
Have they showed any interest?
Here and there.
Yeah. Are you interested in them being interested at all?
Oh yeah, that for sure.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you know,
but
but maybe. And then they kind of also going their own path.
you can lead a horse to water. That's all
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah, you definitely can. You definitely can. You can't make it pee on your shoes, but
That's right.
it's going to anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So thank you again, Tara, for the letter. We appreciate that. If you
Just
too,
a reminder, as you're sending letters in here, maybe you have questions that you want to ask to a travel agent. We've got Patreon supporter Chris Lowry and possibly his wife, or maybe his wife and not him, who knows, who are going to be a guest on the pod in a couple weeks. So I would love to queue up more listener questions than Big Sexy and my questions for them.
agreed.
Uh,
Agreed.
and
I would love to have a list of listener questions. So get those questions sent to us over at what's our email address?
bigsexynomad@gmail.com.
There you go. Thank you. If you're a Patreon, I'll tell you this: if you're a Patreon member and you send a question there, your question will get priority. You'll be guaranteed to have your question asked, and all you got to do is go over to bullwiththebutthole.com and sign up to become one of our Patreon members. You also get access to the episodes when I remember to put them up, access to the interviews early, and a lot of the behind the scenes stuffs and videos that are going on, especially with Judgmentalists performing more. I'm sure there's going to be more performance videos going up. I'm going to start putting these daily walkabout videos. I'm going to compile them, by week and put those kind of up for people who want to check that out and see some of the behind the scenes footage and what have you, what Big Sexy is doing.
Crap.
Oh, what's the matter?
I've been saying Chris's website wrong all this time.
Shame on you. For shame.
It's alpacamybagscruises.com.
Oh, you were just saying alpacamybags.com.
Right. That goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
That goes to a different cruise. Or not cruise,
different travel site.
I retract all of my previous statements and apologize.
Alpaca My Bags cruises. Cruises.com. No, we'll definitely get it right when they're a guest on the podcast.
And they do more than cruises, just so anybody knows. They do land and sea. So
and
if you are interested and want to support a supporter of ours with your next travel endeavor, please do so.
Yeah, but speaking of our Patreon members, do we have some people to thank? Yes.
We always have people to thank. I thank these people every day, even though it may not be on the podcast. People like Josh Wattar, Sebastian Robbins, Lee Popsicle, Michael.
Wait, I gotta correct that. Sebastian Robbins.
Robbins.
Yes, because right. we call him Sebastian Robbins because in our Patreon it comes up with Sebastian Robbins, but I know that he's an ICS member. He's a scoop, and his scoop name is Sebastian Robbins. And
also a bozo, as we come full circle around it and just inbreed these communities.
Right, right, and a part of the congregation, if I recall as well.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So Sebastian Robbins.
See, much to my point from earlier, I'm behind and not worried about being behind on PSS episodes.
Yeah, well, they took a break, and so they're back now, and I'm happy.
But that's not why. That's not why. It's not like my order of operations is, and fortunately, the way that the podcasts fall date-wise, there isn't really much conflict. Like my big three are ICS, Hey Buddy Nice Podcast, Two Characters and a Clown. And the way that they fall, there's not a lot of conflict. Right. So, as long as I'm not traveling, if there's a week's time, I'm up to date on all those podcasts as they come out during the week, and none of them drop on Wednesday. So,
you could have Big Sexy Digital Nomad to the mix. Or Saturday. I mean, it didn't drop on Saturday either. So You
Oh,
can
but
get
we do.
what we do as well. That's right. That's right.
Let's see. We have Chris Lowry, who is a travel agent at alpacamybagscruises.com. Here, I'll make sure I get it right yet again. Bree, Angel, and Smitty Scoop, who is also a bozo, probably a congregation member, but I don't know if he is
I
or
don't know
not.
either. Yeah. Yeah. But we thank you guys. You're definitely a big you're also big sexy world travelers. We appreciate
right.
your support. If our Patreon members, if you guys want to be called, something different, right now I'm still going big sexy world traveler. I like that. Be a big sexy world traveler. And again, if you too want to be a big sexy world traveler, all you got to do is go to bullwiththebutthole.com, join our Patreon, and go to like cool access and have your name read on the air by one or both of us.
That's right.
And you know what? And honestly, if you're a celebrity out there and want to give us a celebrity bump, we'll be welcome to that. But just keep in mind,
it is hard to look at a celebrity going. Imagine a celebrity just, on the toilet taking a massive dump.
We will play that if you guess on the air. Just beware, because we will think about you pooping, because that's what I want our listeners to do. I want to take the celebrity out of celebrity, and let everybody know that you too are human. All celebrities are also human, and all humans poop.
Everybody poops.
Safe travels.
Safe travels.